Good day and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI tournament. We have got for you a couple of matches and of course a couple of updates and some news from the Netherlands where a huge bachelor grade course in bwapi AI has just commenced, but more on that later. We have got this match which was brought to me by Iron Fist Jadian, and it's going to be Purple Wave versus Alien. That is a couple of bots which have been updated a lot in the last couple of weeks and months, so they are going to be pretty good. And if a match has been proposed, either it is because it is utterly ridiculous or because it is pretty good. And pretty good can be for one of the two players. And full disclosure, Purple Wave is well, pretty interesting itself. Oh dear, I shouldn't have said that. The matchup in hand has been quite, well, not stagnant, but it's been evolving a lot around early harass and which tech path to choose, and a standard opening has been quick hatchery first into a pool, and then a third hatchery in base, which seems to be gleaned from the human ZVP builds, which also try to get that expansion in the natural up and running as soon as possible. Because not only have you got access to one more gas geyser to get gas from neuters or lurkers, but you also get the additional larvae production, and with 3 hatcheries you can make a fair number of drones as well. Protoss, meanwhile, a lot about zealots versus the early zerglings, and then a couple of dragoons, and it seems to be that that path is what's going to be followed here. Oh dear, I selected something again. Sorry. Let's try that again. Yeah. I shouldn't be not select things too much. Oh, here's the fight. Oh, and the sound is way too loud, sorry for that. But by now you can see the Zealots have got the upper hand, and Protoss is in a bit of a quandary, because right now we've got a handful of Zerglings. Zerg has set up shop in main, and the Lings now make their way over to the Protoss base, where these Zealots seem to be stuck. The front couple 4 are guarding this position, and the latter 2 are trying to hit that point, and it's going to be all about micro. But I think with the rally advantage and the goon with suppressing fire, I think that Protoss is going to be just fine, especially since there is nothing following up this batch of Zerglings, and the Zerglings are even being chased from the natural. Ooh, these 2 front Zealots should be very careful, and the Zerglings disperse and move out of there. Looks like it's going to be a lair, but there is a Corsair out and all, and that's going to be pretty tough for the Overlords, seeing that there is no anti-air whatsoever. There is no Evo colony, Evo chamber and spore colonies, so these Overlords are going to be harassed pretty badly. That will... oh, there goes one, and the one in the main is, let me select it just real quick, going to be set on with by 2 Corsairs. Well, Protoss, although being rather late with the... oh, that's a pylon. Rather late with the expansion, is going to be quite okay, but of course, as a Zerg, even if you haven't got the Overlords, you can see its supply blocked quite badly. You can build a couple of Sunkens, and those Sunkens are going to be more than enough for these... oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Now the Protoss army is going to attack, but that's not a wise choice, and although another Overlord is going to fall, you could have killed that just as easily with the Corsair. You can see this Corsair is guarding this hatchery there. These 2 are guarding the hatcheries here, and every Overlord which comes out gets sniped instantly. So Purple Wave going for a lot of damage, and Alien is on 3 supply. That's only the hatcheries, but now there are Lings in the natural, and they're going to tear down the Nexus. There is nothing to stop it, and the Corsairs come back home to help and fight this, but they... oh well, they are still at the Overlords here, and Zerg just can't get any kind of unit production up and running. should really go, if you go for a later spy, you should really go for an Evo chamber, and then now it's the probe's turn, and the Lynx just they don't have the stomach for a fight with that oh dear with that one zealot. And although the zealots are dying now, Zerg is finally gotten to the point where it can build hydras. It's got quite a bit of money, but it isn't building anything. I don't know what it's aiming to do. We've got one hydra and a couple of zerglings. And let's look at the micro, because this Corsair, and let me select it real quick and then deselect it before something crashes again. Zerg with the few units it's got, because... oh god, not again! Sorry about that. Yeah. Go. Where were we? The battle, and here we are back in the game. So here goes the extractor once more, and just let me speed it up just a tiny notch more, because Protoss is so late with natural, it doesn't really have the unit production to sustain this level of harass, especially now with the Hydras out. And although a lot of overlords are getting sacrificed because there is no monitor to keep those safe from all these Corsairs, and 3 Corsairs chew down 1 overlord so very quickly. Zerg has got a bit of an issue as well, because it's got no the natural of Protoss is starting, and it's just a very tight match. And ideally what you'd like to see is a couple, 1 or 2 spores with a couple of overlords. That in any case you don't get free overlord kills all over the place like it's happening now. And now the Zerglings and the Hydras have gotten these zealots locked down, and these two should be helping, because you could really keep those zealot numbers down, and as long as these Corsairs are here, they can't really kill overlords out in the field. More Hydras are joining the fun, so that's good. And supply-wise, although Protoss is ahead by quite a margin, that is all in probes. There are so many probes. You've got 35 probes, and only, well, that's in Corsairs and Zealots. So the army composition for Protoss isn't optimal at all. All the overlords are falling, but these Zealots without speed are no match for the Hydras, and more Hydras are joining the fun, so it's going to be a hard task for Protoss. And Zerg going for... oh no, let's not select it. Going for another base, and I think that it should build some more units, really. It's got a lot of money, but only 5 Hydras, and there are still Corsairs all over this, trying to kill overlords left and right, and there is only so much you can do with 5. Oh dear, what's happening? Is that a very late... that is a very late neuter switch. And with so many Corsairs on the field, I really doubt that it's going to be much of a difference. These 5 Hydras, though, are doing lots and lots of damage. These Zealots are being so poorly microed, they could really need some Goons or a Reaver or something else. And more Corsairs coming still. Supply-wise, Zerg struggling for its life, and even though it's got a lot of... okay, well, it's got 1 muter, but versus 3 Corsairs, all these muters aren't really going to be all that effective. But now only 1 Corsair remaining versus 3 muters. You should win that, although you are suffering atrociously. And these 5 Hydras now faced with a flock of Zealots on their tail. They decide they don't want to out-micro that. But Zerg seems to be stabilized now with a little bit of muters. And of course Zealots versus muters is not the ideal combination. Of course you should try to do this in tandem, that this Corsair also gets attacked by the Hydras, and the Hydras can then easily take down the Zealots. More Scourge are coming, and the Scourge should really be heading this way and not hover over that base, doing nothing. So it seems that Zerg isn't really in the best shape, and Protoss has got a lot of money stacked. It's not really producing units at all, and the Protoss army is now converging upon 4 sunken colonies. 1 Hydra died, oh no, 5 Hydras still, and a couple of muters. So as you can see, earlier Zerg was at 40 supply, now at 50, and Protoss has been better. So for the time being, Zerg's got the advantage, especially with the 3rd now being operational, and the main being so very low because there are just so many workers for Protoss. Now finally Goon range is starting, or air units, air damage 1. And you can see how these matchups are being pushed. and pushed again because we've had the Corsair evolution, and Zerg will now have to answer with a monitor that keeps its overlord safe. And all in all, I think that just all bots, their decision making is too slow. They can't really recognize what's going on. They do have adaptive capabilities, but they need to be iterated more quickly and evaluated too. So that's going to be the challenge for the next couple of months, I think, in Brutal AI. Now, Protoss is in a bit of a quandary because there are just too many Zealots and Mutas over the natural. And yeah, there we go, Zerg spending his money, and Protoss got so much money, but isn't really doing anything with that. Should take a third, should maybe harvest more gas, or just build Zealots and do something with that. Just try to do damage with the Zealots. As it's going now, the natural seems to be under attack. Zerg, feeling the air, finally has gotten the supply to build units, taking 2 bases at once, and just building units, streaming them in steadily into the enemy base. Some Scourge here, and the natural looks like this. So by now Protoss seems to be in a hard position. So that's I think is that. I'm going to speed it up just a notch. Oh, I forgot to put it at 2 times the speed last time it crashed. And that is pretty much the game. 2 more bases up by Zerg. And yeah, I thought there were Scourge here, so the Scourge manager could do with a little upgrade as well. These 2 Mutas, and Mutas aren't really the best in fighting Corsairs, as can be demonstrated here. Zerg probably will be supply blocked, but even with the atrocious fighting ratios of 1 Muta versus 3 Corsairs, and the Overlords are convening here, so perhaps it was there is a plan for a spore colony here, but it got morphed into a sunken because there was some kind of aggression. But by now, more bases, and Zerg is going to have a field day. The attack in the main base is being shut down by these goons, pretty well done. And as you can see, there are so many Overlords because Zerg has got so much production. The main of Protoss is mined out, and Protoss didn't just capitalize enough on its advantage with the Corsairs. It should really have taken an expansion earlier. And as you can see now, more and more units are entering the fight, and here will soon grow a Zerg cluster which can take down this gateway army. All kinds of skirmishes being won by Protoss, but with the eco advantage of Zerg, it won't be long. Oh, and here we've got Lurkers, so there is no kind of detection. Oh, hello, take more bases please. There is no detection for Protoss, so as soon as these Lurkers hatch, Protoss is going to be in a hard position. And they don't. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's just a 1 base economy at this point versus virtually the entire map. Only this base has not yet been taken, or that one too, has now been seen by Zerg, and Zerg is just putting all the stops. Supply max is maxed, 100 supply versus 36, and that is going to be that. Lurkers now finally hitting the natural, and as soon as they're in among the probes, it's going to be, yep, that's going to be it. So Alien taking this game despite losing a lot of Overlords, and as you can see, once the unit production starts going off, it's just massive what Zerg can do off 73 workers. The supply is climbing so hard, and even though there's a lot of money, it can't really keep its money down because there is so much income, and from everywhere units are trickling in, and by the time they reach the natural, it's just a steady stream of units into the main base of Protoss, and the army supply is skyrocketing. That's the GG. Alien wins over Purple Wave. Thank you, Iron Fist, for suggesting me this replay. And now I'm going to get some games of my own choice in. Starting off first with Microwave versus Ironbot. Perhaps let me pause that. I need to show you something about a bachelor course at the University of Delft in my home country in the Netherlands by Harm Griffioen and Die Plange is it in Dutch, multi-agent systems in StarCraft, which is their bachelor thesis, and they have now implemented into a course wherein they will use Goal, which is a more superficial layer of logic for AI in games, to interact with brutal AI. and that will just then result in all kinds of bots being made with the Go instruction language. There is no video yet. I've got the GitHub here, and I found a blog as well, but basically what it is, it's just a platform like Atlantis or well, not Optima Bot, which is really a super layer upon Brute AI to make coding easier, so you can just I should have prepared this better, but in any event, there is a class of 36 teams of 6 people, so all in all I think it is 198 people going to be involved with Brute AI for at least 2 months, and that's pretty impressive. So Han, congratulations for getting this off the ground, and I'll be doing my best to get more visuals and information for you in the near future. And that also seems to make the Netherlands one of the hotspots for Brute AI at the moment, because although the Brute AI tournament itself, the Student StarCraft AI tournament, is located in the Czech Republic and Slovakia, of course we've got the CIG tournament being run from South Korea, and we've got the AIIDE tournament being run from Canada and America. In the Netherlands we've got the Maastricht University, which is doing a lot of stuff with, of course, Martin Royerkes and Dennis Soemers, and now the University of Delft hosting a massive course for almost 200 people. It's just a sight to behold. So let's head back to the game. We've got Ironbot versus Microwave. Ironbot, of course, having a little slip up with the wall, and now there are lings all over this. Going for the gas SCV, that's a good decision, trying to delay the tech path of the Zerg. And the micro of Terran is pretty good, but as the wall is open, more lings should be coming in, but they retreat, and that, I think, is not the right... it's an okay decision versus 2 vultures at this point. Ironbot, of course, is still the top dog in Brute Island at the moment, and it's will be interesting to see how Microwave fares, because Microwave has been updated a lot and is grown to be a good Zerg. Then again, Ironbot is going to be a tough opponent. I think versus these vultures you need a couple of Sunkens, and if they are going to get into the base, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Now with a Hydra Den, and I think that's a Spire coming out soon, but I think if these Zerglings bugger off home, that these vultures are going to get into the drone line, and that's not good. We've got a couple of Hydras now, and Hydras of course are pretty good against vultures, but you need a couple of Hydras more to deal with them properly. And it seems like Iron off one base, it's spending only minerals, so it's doing pretty well. Now with the mines and the vultures, the containers there, Microwave only lost 1 drone, so that's quite okay, and if a muta were to pop, that would be a great asset to help fight these mines and these vultures. You can see though the pressure of Iron is immense, and although look at these Hydras sniping these mines, whoa, that was pretty close. These Hydras are so good, but they need to be careful not to venture out too far, because the vultures will then sneak around the back and kill more drones. And I think all in all that Hydras versus Iron is a pretty good choice, because as you can see they can deal with mines quite easily, and also with the vultures. Of course the vultures have got the greater mobility, but the Hydras also regenerate some hit points, and as long as they don't get hit by too many mines, they're quite a good choice for the early game. Perhaps with a Hydra Lurker play might do quite well against Iron, because it gets detection pretty late. As you can see, the natural's pretty late and all, and although it's got a turret, it hasn't really got the comsat capabilities yet to help and fight these. Ooh, and there goes the first tank. So Microwave doing pretty well, should be taking a third to exploit this momentarily map control it's got. And the Hydras are tearing down vultures left and right. That's so very well done. These vultures can't really get the grip of them. And you really need to... oh dear, siege mode is there. So that's going to be the next step in this battle. Siege mode versus Hydras. Of course the vultures are going to be vulnerable. And I think as a bulwark you need 2 sunken colonies to make this a little bit safer. Ooh, that was... And these mines, you really need to keep an overlord with the Hydras. could do with overlord speed and not let the vultures in too much, because it's going to be a mess and these tanks will set up shop outside your natural. That's going to be a huge problem. Maybe take a base in the far corner so you get some overseas reinforcement possibilities. By now, 3 tanks, the vultures, this looks to be pretty much done. Oh, but here come the mutas, and it's like the Lord of the Rings with, what are they called? The eagles. The eagles are coming, the mutas are coming. Still there is a vulture in the natural and a tank as well. Mutas are coming back though, so for the time being Zerg seems to have things under control. Supply wise it's a bit of a mess because Iron's got double the number of workers, 2 bases coming up, while the drone saturation right here is not really optimal. This sunken, it's so hard to get your orientation right and build the sunken in the right position. But the muta army is growing for Zerg, and now the mutas are killing the vultures, but the vultures aren't a problem. The problem is Terran setting up shop with a lot of eco, and this you can't really bust with just mutas of 2 bases. So what you need to do oh dear, that's not good. Mutas in the main, and the drone count is so low already. Some more drones are being built, but what you need to do is play safe for a bit. 1-2 sunkens, couple of mutas, get map control, expand, and not try to do everything with mutas as a main battle unit of 2 bases, because that's just going to be very hard versus the Terran, which is going to have its way with you. Look at that. 5 Goliaths at once with the turret support, and although there is quite a mutaflock, Zerg at this point is really having problems keeping its natural safe. And although the odd vulture, oh dear, look at that, the mutas are fighting so hard and they are in superior numbers to beat down the Goliaths, but they're taking so much damage. Oh, and the mines, there is still no overlord coverage. Taking it back to the natural and now trying to engage all these. Oh god, no! You were doing so well, but it's just such a misconception that the mutas are a main battle unit able to take on Goliaths and fortified position like that. Only 1 turret got killed and so many mutas. Don't do that. If you... oh god, it's so unclear on the concept, because the build order initially is good. Take an expansion first, then tech up a bit, Hydras to keep the vulture down, make some drones, but then use... and now there are so many Goliaths, and the mutas are trying to do everything. Now with the Hydras being back in force, no overlord, Zerg is doing well. Look at all the mutas falling, but there are too many Zerg casualties at this point, because Zerg is refusing to take a third, and it's just a hard balance to maintain between workers, bases, and please pick your fights carefully, because by now with the upgrades the Terran mech train is going to be too strong, and mutas and Hydras can't do anything versus versus vultures and Goliaths. And look at all the SCVs here, all the mines are doing damage, the overlords are dropping left and right, and by now with the upgrades the Goliaths are grown to be so strong. There is no defensive position here, there is no lurker, there is no third base, and this is just one big path of mines and stuff, so it's a mess. Iron at 1 base for the time being, but now you're contained by this, and you really need lurkers or something, and there isn't a tank at the moment, but the mech army is just too strong. Iron isn't capitalizing on this too, because it should really take a third in case Zerg had taken another couple of bases. It would be in a huge mess with 2 sunkens. Sunkens are okay versus vultures and Goliaths. With the tank it's different, but you need to really balance what you're doing, and by now Zerg is going to sink. Terran production is somewhat stagnating because there are 50 SCVs at the natural and no third base taken. But Zerg must be getting low too, and now with the tanks, even if they are not sieging, there is just too much mech here with all the SCVs repairing. It's not going to work for Zerg in the long run, and Terran should really siege a couple of tanks and just encroach upon this natural. But you can see it's going to go only one way, and Zerg is not really going to get anything done. Now with 35 versus 100 supply, Terran at this point tripling Zerg, and all these Hydras can't really get close to the Terran. And yeah, that's going to be it. Main of Zerg is out, no drones here. Zerg at 5 drones because there are vultures behind the mineral line. And the supply is falling steadily. So GG, Iron takes it. And let's hop into the next game, which is Alien versus Dave Churchill. And Dave Churchill, of course, does play random. In this game rolled random Terran. And Alien going for a Zerg play, and that's going to be great because Alien is a pretty good Zerg, and the Terran of Dave Churchill is pretty cheesy, so it will be all about if Alien can spot this and do anything in time to stop it. Alien going for the expected quick natural hatchery, while Dave Churchill is going for a lot of Marines, chase down that scouting drone and the in-base hatchery again. So that's a pretty good Zerg build. And there we go. The game's afoot. And more Marines are coming, but now with the... oh dear, let's pause this for a little bit. We've got a bit of a tug of war between a couple of Marines and a couple of Zerglings, and it's going to go down to micro Zerg this time with 2 Sunkens, pretty safe. Could make a couple of drones from those larvae, and Dave Churchill just setting up shop with 2 barracks and going for some upgrades. Of course, I don't know what that's about because there is no gas, so you couldn't get any upgrades from that eBay. And the Marines have taken the bridge. These Zerglings could just sit back here and happily camp with the Sunkens, all the while taking up to some more sturdy unit. As you can see, Zerg being a little bit down in supply, doing okay, but the Marine count is growing, and if there is going to be a medic anytime soon, Terran is going to be pretty dominant, and that's an interesting place for a tech building. What's it going to be? It's going to be an Evo chamber. That's pretty good. Are we going to see lurkers? No, because there is no Hydro Den. More gas, more Zerglings, and more Marines. So no tech from either player. And University of Alberta now taking an expansion, building a couple of more barracks, and more barracks still, going for a lot of Marines. And now with the stim trying to bust this sunken establishment. But if you stim those Marines without medics, it's going to be a hard fight, because after 2 stims they can only take 1 shot of these Sunkens, and it looks like there are more Sunkens to come. Now with a Hydrogen, I don't know if this is still possible, but we'll find out soon. And that's going to be, I think, a lair. Perhaps we are going to see lurkers, which would be an ideal choice because there is no detection whatsoever from University of Alberta bot, and that's a pretty BM place to build 2 more hatcheries. At least I think this is going to be a hatchery. And these Zerglings trying to take down the power generators. Of course, there are about a lot of them stacked here. I hear the ideal thing is to kill them with splash damage, either tanks or... oh, look at all these Marines. Lurkers. And now the Lings come all back to help out in the fight against these Marines. The Marines are doing pretty well so far, but without medics, without any kind of upgrades, they're going to be in a bit of a troublesome situation. And these Zerglings are killing so many power generators, it's just not funny. And finally they've broken out, so now they've got 2 points of exit, and they can surround these Terrans. But look at the bio ball, this is insane. So many Marines, all with stim, and although they are suffering horribly from the stim and they can't really get to grips with this sunken field here, I really think that unless Zerg gets some lurkers up, these mutas, while they're popped, they're being shot down instantly from the sky. These Marines are doing so much damage. Big problem for Terran is that there is going to be a third here, and now the Terrans have to retreat, the Marines have to retreat, and as you can see there is 1 Overlord over every expansion save this one. Zerg's got everything well under control, but it needs to build some kind of a unit to fight with these Marines. And again, the Mutalisk, the most valued unit in the Zerg army at this point, is still being used as a main battle unit versus this mass of Marines. Unless you've got pretty good micro and awareness that you can snipe this one, snipe these 3, if you're going to plow into this massive stint marines, you're basically setting up for a very costly trade, because mutas are so much more expensive than a couple of marines. And although marines are dying left and right, there really should be a lurker or something. Now the natural's been depopulated from drones. These Sunkens are going to fall, and that's just poor decision making at this point, because you really need to figure out what kind of unit you need to stop the enemy's composition. And if there is only marines and you are steadfastly building zerglings and mutas, you are doing something wrong, and that's just not really excusable anymore, I think, at this point, because University of Alberta mod is a rather cheesy affair. Just, not even stimming, just pure marines off 2 bases, killing the enemy, not even long distance mining, not taking a third, just streaming in marine after marine, and the army is huge. It's 87 marines. One lurker right here would have stopped them all. And if you have not got the capacity to detect that and to counter that, it's going to be a hard fight. And these units here, they should be attacking these rallies over here. They could take them out at virtually no cost, but instead they are waiting to take on this main army here. Now the marines are moving back for some reason, I don't know. Oh, finally there are some mutas in the supply lines, forcing this entire 103 marine Congo line to head back. But it's just not working for Zerg at this moment, I feel. Zerg rebuilding the main here, because, well, the actual main looks like this, and that's not a good place at all. Building a lair in a not safe zone, also not a good idea. One lurker, 2 lurkers, and it's the game. But unfortunately, Terran is just going to build more marines. We've got 134, and now being supply blocked, that's not good. Are we going to see more depots? Yeah, we are going to see more depots, but by now there are mutas all over this, and although there are almost 150 marines, the mutas are creating a diversion, while the main army is being kept in check by this meager force of Zerglings. While Zerg is attacking so hard indeed, and building a pool, and I can't really see this working at this point. It's a big standoff. Terran almost being maxed. Oh, this depot isn't going to be finished, it looks like. We've got a huge swarm of marines, 146 now search. Oh, going to hit the base. And although Zerg is going to defend this, one lurker at this point, it would kill everything, but still going for it with Zerglings. The Sunkens are quite well placed, the Zerglings are doing okay, but at this point you need bases and you need a lurker. And that would be a relatively easy thing to accomplish. Just check, has enemy got detection? If no, build cloaked unit and win the game. Or in the previous game, is enemy going for a mech composition? It should be contain and expand just to get more units out. That kind of simple decision making, although it can be pretty hard. If you are not attempting it, it's going to fail anyway, and a relatively simple bot like University of Alberta with it's not simple, but it's got a cheesy build order. That's something that should be stressed. Now these marines are going to go one at a time, and this one drone is very brave, but you really shouldn't be doing that. And it's trying to reach the base below, and these marines are trying to reach something elsewhere, or it's trying to filter down this ramp. It's going to be a huge mess, and Zerg is just refusing to take another base, and that's so frustrating. And that drone is still in there. It's for minutes and minutes, and finally it gets killed. And yeah, there we go. It's going to be a hive. It's a 1-base hive versus a sea of marines, and I really don't know what the Zerg is thinking at this point, because what can you do with so much technology if you haven't got the army to support it? Terran meanwhile has mined out the natural, is not really doing anything anymore, and money-wise is running out. So there were 46 marines earlier, now 116. And Zerg is sitting on a hive with only one larvae producing building, And I think these Marines are just going to die one by one, speeding up the game just a little bit. As you can see, all these drones are dying because they have no concept of this terrain is hostile with all these Marines in it. And the Marine numbers are falling slowly but surely. But there are no more drones at this point, and that's just ridiculous. And we've got an Ultra Kevin and 3 drones. So, yep, that's going to be good. And now we've got a couple of drones being pulled from gas. Oh, and that is... they are suiciding into this swindling army of Marines, but it's not going to be enough. And finally Zerg pushes through. And this is an exasperating battle, but will we see an Ultra? I think not, because Zerg is refusing to build any more drones, but the army of Zerg is by now strong enough to take down this defensive base. So, GG alien work to be done. In another department, we've got the Eminent Zerg Killerbot by Marion Defeca and B Reaver, and I thought, well, let's have this match because it's it may be interesting to see how it's going to play out. Speeding up the initial stages of the game somewhat, at least until a couple of Zerglings are out, and they are out now. And it's now Zerglings versus Zealots, and the Zealots have got a very good position with the 2 of them and the high ground. Ooh, but it looks like the Lings are doing pretty well. Now one more Zealot, and I think the Zealot is going to do quite well. Yep, there we go. B Reaver holding the early pressure of Zerg. Zerg not really following up at this point. And again, we've got the main, we've got the natural, and I think this is going to be another hatchery. Yep, there we go, and attack building. So Zerg going for a mild contain, happily sitting on 2 bases while Protoss has got 1. And ideally, if you see the Protoss take another base, you take a 3rd base as a Zerg, and from there on play it out. Protoss looks like it's going for some kind of Reaver build with 2 Stargates doing nothing. Ooh, there we go. So, shuttle underway. What's happening in the Zerg end of things? A couple of Hydras, but oh dear, the shuttle is just going to hit the main. And that's going to be quite cruel because... oh, it's now fleeing from one Hydra, that's not good. And there are a couple of Sunkens here. And this shuttle is taking so much damage. So much damage being done by one Hydra, and there it goes. By now, Protoss has got a couple of Reavers out. Corsair production has started, but Zerg is already all over this with a lot of Hydras. Ooh, that's not a good contain. If you're trying to contain Reavers with Hydras, you are going to suffer, like is happening here. You should keep your distance, and you should have taken more bases earlier just to out-macro your enemy and then perhaps do a flank. And that's something I'd like to see more, because these 3 Reavers, are being shut down by the Mutas. That's an excellent switch. And now let's not use these Mutas as main battle units. Ooh, Reavers are unprotected all over this. But the Corsairs are going to... oh, that's a lot of Mutas. Now we've got 3 bases, more hatcheries coming. That's a ballsy expansion to take. And all the Mutas are over this. All over this. The natural is gone, and they are trying to take down cannons. What you should do is just leisurely take down this expansion here. Grab one more of yourself and for yourself, and just do damage one by one. But these, bit by bit, these Mutas are all in the base trying to kill a Reaver while this Corsair is killing them both. And that's just not worth it in my opinion, because these Mutas are so fragile, best used for harass. And by now Zerg has got the advantage, and it's playing out the game nicely. B-Reaver struggling for what it's worth, but I don't think that a 1 versus 3 base, or even 4 base situation, if you count the mineral only, is going to do much good in the long run, especially not with the 5th base. So Killerbot is at this point really making the right decisions to expand if it's ahead. And that's pretty good considering it hasn't been updated as much as the other bots in the Zerg arena. Killerbot going for masses of Hydras and Mutas, but with the Reaver over here, It's going to take a while for them to break through, but in the long run you can see where this is going. Hatcheries all over the place, and that's just a very good macro Zerg decision. Taking its time, having the contain, getting more ahead, taking more bases, and as you can see, all the mining going on here, left, right and centre. It's going to be a bloody week for Protoss, and even though now the main is mined out, they're trying to long distance mine from somewhere, from here for some reason. And where are these probes going? I don't know. Zerg eventually will have this shut down pretty hard. And there come the Hydras. So that's the game pretty much. Going into... well, what should we do now? I saw a good update of Random Hammer. Random Hammer, of course, based on Steam Hammer by the same author. And playing TSC Move Protoss. Random Hammer now playing as a Terran, and it's received an update last week where it stated that its Protoss and Terran build orders were adapted. So let's see what that is going to be all about. TSCMU, of course, doing a ridiculous build versus Zerg with shuttles and Reavers. Also port adapt for use versus Terran, so I think it's safe to assume it's going to do that again this game. Random Hammer going to kill a scouting probe and move up to the base of Protoss, but by now there is at least one goon, so one vulture can't really get anything done against that. Protoss with the second base up and running already, Terran being a little bit sluggish in that regard, and trying to do everything off one base. So Protoss with, look at that, these vultures bugging out a little bit, and if you speed up the game a little bit, it's really funny. It's like fast turning stars. TSCMU going for, I think, a Reaver. There we go. And Random Hammer going for a lot of factories, but these factories being powered off one base, I don't really think that's optimal. Now with the Reaver and the Goons, TSCMU Protoss is going to be in a good shape to deal with that. And I see a flashing Stargate. Surely it's not going to build a Corsair, because there are no Terran air units as of yet. And that can only mean one thing. In the case of TSCMU, it's even the most probable that it's going to be a Scout. Happily sitting back on two bases. Yep, there we go, there is the Scout. And this is utterly ridiculous, and the Scout takes its first kill, which is the Marine, and there's only one Marine doing air damage versus, well, air units. The only anti-air Terran had at this moment. Ooh, and now we've got... we've got to... yeah, no, let's not fight Reavers with Vultures, because that's obviously not going to work. And the Scout... oh, and that's pretty good micro versus these tanks. Just kill a couple. Oh, that Marine was very lucky. Ooh, and the Reaver just making it out with this life. And the Natural being up for Terran, so in an okay position. We've got one Scout, and perhaps we've got one Scout more coming. Is that another Scout? That's a Scout. That's a Scout. We've got two Scouts, and Random Hammer seems to have issues with anti-air. Although the air-to-ground damage of these Scouts is pretty puny, TSCMU is doing quite well with them. Now more Reavers coming up, and the main looks like this. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. And these tanks sieging, unsieging, every time they unsiege, a Reaver gets dropped somewhere. And they are able to catch a couple of tanks. Now with the Gateway Army, this is a brutal smackdown. Random Hammer, nice try, but no cigar. And TSCMU takes the game. That's pretty well done, expanding all over the place. Doing this with Scouts and Shuttles, so that's pretty good. Perhaps in another game... oh, look at rolled Terran again, this time versus Martin Royaker's Leaderbot. Let's see how it's going to fare here. So that was the initial stage of the game pretty much, at 512 times the speed, thanks to OpenBW. Random Hammer now with the contain, doing pretty well, because Leaderbot is under a bit of pressure and now is going to lose some workers. Worker-wise, Random Hammer is still 2 behind, but if it keeps up this pressure, it's going to be in an okay position. But Martin Royaker has gotten the supply advantage, and Random Hammer is just trying to do too much of one base, now being chased back by a tank, couple of vultures, and I think it's going to be in a hard position, because worker-wise, Leaderbot is ahead, army-wise it's ahead as well. And now Random Hammer is fighting on the home turf, but it's losing stuff, so much work is going down, the worker disadvantage is increasing, and the army supply of Leaderbot is 22 times bigger than 0. Yes, it's a run game at this point. So, there we go. There we go, and I think that Leaderbot is going to do everything on one base, 2 for the time being, seeing that it's got a huge army in Random Hammer's base. I'd say that's a wise decision. So, for now, let's get one more game in. Oh, well, let's do 2 more. Got a couple of good games. Got Ironbot versus Purple Wave. Didn't we have that already? I don't know. Not this one, I think. That's a nice wall-off by Iron. Could have built it here as well. That might have been even better, because then you can just take your natural along with that. For now, going for one more. Looks like a barracks. Oh, that's a command center. Oh, hello. That's pretty smart, floating it down from the high ground. Meanwhile, Purple Wave being pretty safe with a couple of goons, taking a natural of its own, and these vultures are very careful not to get touched. They're trying to run by, and they do run by, but one more goon came in from behind and chased it out. So, for the time being, Purple Wave in a pretty good position, supply-wise okay. And yeah, this could have been floated down here to mine, because there is no goon presence here in the natural. And there it goes finally, and now there are tanks underneath, so that's a bit of a goo-goo. And although these tanks easily shut down these couple of goons, they do prevent this command center from landing, which will be a problem, because now... oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, 1-2 cannons might have solved it all, but losing 5 probes in the process, and Iron just having issues with the landing of a command center. No, still not. And I think I noticed that earlier, that while the vultures are out there harassing, doing damage, killing probes, killing units with their mines, the tanks of Ironbots are sitting back at home, doing nothing, and in this case doing worse than nothing. They prevent the economic expansion of the Terran army. So, Protoss growing in strength. You can see the army supply is very much superior to that of Ironbot, and that is not even considering all these tanks which are mulling about here, doing damn all. Ironbot has got everything locked down, mines at every base, and a Wraith 2, which is pew-pewing a couple of probes every now and then, but it's not going to work really, is it? And speeding it up just a tad. The entire Protoss army is being distracted by one Wraith. As you can see here, I'll slow it down just a bit. This Wraith is moving in, moving out, shaking it all about. Meanwhile, oh, the tanks have finally arrived, at least some of them, and doing a lot of damage. Now with the turret encroachment, I think Terran is going to be in a good position, and although this army here is sitting about for some reason, I don't know, the Gateway army is pulling in though, and with the superior numbers, they're pulling back even the tanks. And although the tanks are fighting pretty well, Protoss is on 3 base, and Terran, oh finally it's gotten the natural up and running. And there we go, we've got the scout as well. Protoss being very judicious, mining everything out, could take another base. But here we go, that's a hard suicide, but the tank numbers are severely depleted. But these 2 goons attacking by themselves, the Zeniths now getting into the tanks and then moving back, and that's just a wrong commit. Either don't get in at all, or just see the push through, and even if you lose a couple of units, you don't lose them in vain, because everything that gets killed here doesn't come to grips with the tanks there. That's going to be a hard mess. So, 3rd being taken for Terran. Terran having this locked down, and still this Vulture, this behavior is not good at all. It's going to kill these Zealots, and now with a couple of Wraiths and all, Protoss is mining out. The natural 3rd is already mined out. That's strange, but hey, there you go. Terran, meanwhile, has gotten 1-2 bases, and because the natural was so late, it was doing pretty well. So Purple Wave under a lot of pressure, and I can't really see it winning, because the army supply is in in favor of Terran, and it's going to be more and more so. With all the mines and the hap-snap intervention of these Goliaths catching a couple, it's not going to be fair anymore, and that was pretty much the game. So going into the last game of today, it's the carrier bot versus Steamhammer, and Steamhammer got an update as well. So it will be interesting to see if it's going to be able to deal with the carriers and perhaps the Corsairs of Xim. Thomas Weider, of course, made the semi-finals of this year's Student StarCraft AI tournament. If you like what you see, come visit us at our website and watch these games 24/7, learn to play against these bots, and if you are so inclined, learn to code these AIs yourself. As you can see, Steamhammer doing an unusual build, not making all that many lings, going for a quick Hydra den of 3 bases, third up and running already, while there are still no probes mining at the natural of Ximp. And these more Hydras are coming, Hydras and things, and it seems like they are going to gather a small army, 4th base being taken by Zerg, and there isn't a single carrier in sight. So for the time being it's going to be a Zerg push, I think, versus the handful of cannons which is here at the natural. They should be careful not to come too close and just take one cannon, but they should really learn to commit. Just do the math, and there we go, lots of cannons going down and then going back. But the Hydras now are in sufficient numbers to kill the interceptors, which is good. Shouldn't fight in view of these cannons though, but by now we've got 6 Zerg bases, and I think that's the good decision. These Scourge, however, should just commit, and now we've got, to counter the Scourge, we've got the Corsairs. That means less carrier production, and that means more Hydras to fight of these carriers. But where is the unit production? Zerg is just not building enough units, and it's got an Ultra Cavern. It's not going to do anything with that Ultra Cavern, and these Hydras are coming in one at a time. That's not going to be good. And these carriers are doing lots and lots of damage because all the Scourge are just... the Scourge micro is not good. Scourge are dying without doing any damage, and that's going to be very costly for Steamhammer. Nevertheless, perhaps it might still save this base, because some Scourge do occasionally land, but it should really learn to group units and attack in force. But every Hydra that is going to be suicided in there one at a time is not going to work. One base goes down, 2 more bases being taken by Zerg, but 1 more by Protoss, and the next wave of carriers will be prepared momentarily. That is going to be a huge problem. But there is... the gas of Protoss is pretty low, and there are a lot of Zerglings and Muters. But the Hydras are not attacking, and they are not in large groups, and they cannot really... they get confused by all these interceptors. I think that's going to be a problem, and that is going to be the next step for Steamhammer, I think, just to group its units more effectively. And these Zerglings should just move into these cannons ASAP, doing a lot of damage. All the money which is going to be spent on rebuilding these cannons, and the carriers have to come home. Just commit, just plow them into the enemy base, distract the carriers, build up more bases, get a group of Hydras together, and I can't stress enough that you need a group. These Lings are going to do quite fine. That was the natural, and you can even ignore the carriers apparently if you're going to do that. So it looks like this is a successful build by Zerg. Carriers just get ignored, and the Lings are going to be everywhere all at once. All these bases are just going to stream in Zerglings one at a time, and these carriers just... they can't keep up. There are just too many Zerglings, and that was the main base. Protoss got a huge air army, he's got a 3rd base which is now being protected by a lot of Corsairs. But there are just so many Zerg units at this point. What are these 2 drones doing? I don't know, not doing anything it seems. And here too, the worker micro seems severely messed up, because only occasionally is a drone coming back with a little bit of minerals. The same is happening here. The mining of steam hammers is a bit of a mess. The main is okay, the natural is okay-ish too. Now the Zerglings take on the third, a couple of observers in the main, and the carriages just get plain ignored and all the links kill everything. Have you got this beautiful music again? That means something tragic is going to happen, and that is the game. Where is the air support? Yeah, we don't need air support, we just kill everything in the meanwhile. So this was this week's broadcast. I hope next week I'll be having more news about this great project at the Technical University of Delft, where 189 people are doing a project on bwapi with a new superficial AI language called Go. Let me plug their GitHub one more time. So they've got a project on StarCraft and on Unreal Tournament 3 and all kinds of interesting stuff. Let's have a look at the StarCraft page, because it's just interesting to see. You can they call it a multi-agent system. I really need to know more about this. Do check it out. This is their GitHub page. I'll put the link in the description as well, and perhaps someone could install it. There is a wiki, there are there's all kinds of information. Unfortunately, I'm not really a coder, so I need to have some kind of a replay or a video to show, or something in English I can read. I thank you again for watching this time, and hope to see you again next week. For now, I say goodbye.